Highlander.
Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe.
Oh, when this movie
Demonetized.
starts, go
And
ahead.
demonetized. Yes, exactly right.
Well, I love the beginning of the movie when that's all you hear. It just starts up and it's the Queen song, right? It's like
exactly.
you're going to be in.
Soundtrack by
Yes,
Queen.
yes.
One tragedy though is the segment where Freddie Mercury leading Queen in their rendition of was it New York, New York?
Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe.
And it never, there was never a full version, as far as I know. Never completely recorded a full version. They just recorded the portion they needed for the film, so it doesn't appear on the soundtrack. It doesn't appear anywhere. And it's like, I would have loved that version of the song to have been released, and it just doesn't exist.
That's too bad. That happens.
Originally, no soundtrack for this movie. The songs for it all ended up getting released on a most of them ended up getting released on a Queen album called, I'm drawing a blank. Somebody in the chat's probably going to get it for me. And it wasn't until years later they ended up doing this, whole soundtrack treatment for it.
Oh, Mark Malikoff, welcome. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Is there an honor thing in Highlander? I would assume the Kurgan is the least honorable character.
No, I would argue there is not. There is, however, the rules of the game.
They have to obey the rules. Yes.
And it's absolute things like you can't fight on
holy ground.
Holy ground.
So if it's a church or a Tibetan monastery, whatever it is,
you cannot get involved in someone else's battle. It's one-on-one, and that's all there is to it. And it's enforced somehow by whatever it is, the quickening or the universe or whatever it is. Yeah.
So that's the original poster. I'm curious, did you see this in the theaters when it came out, or is this a home video cable thing for you?
I want to say that I first saw it on cable. I believe that's the case. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
But that's the original poster. Look at that. It's very mysterious. I see the Kurgan in the background there.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on. There we go. Christopher Lambert.
Christopher Lambert as Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. Absolutely. I loved his accent, and when you find out more about the actor and you find out his very interesting background, his unique accent because of living, in different places around the world. This happens to people that, have
transatlantic accent. That's
exactly.
Yes.
Well, no, not really. Transatlantic is a very specific kind of English dialect,
right? Like the Spinal Tap characters.
But he lived in, and I can't even remember now if he lived in France and he lived in Germany for a while, and he spoke English, and so it's a very odd accent, and that's something they actually. You would think you would want someone with a Scottish brogue, right? Now, what you really, really want for this role is someone that can do the flashback scenes with a Scottish accent, and then do the modern thing with the kind of accent really that Christopher Lambert brought to the role, right? Yeah. After centuries of life living in different countries with changing dialects and languages, you would have a very unique accent. And but it takes an actor who can really do accents on the fly like that. I got the impression that he was just playing his own accent, and he didn't have that much of an acting experience when he came to this role, which was fine. He did a great job, and he was great for what he was. But I always point to Christopher Lambert's accent as people get hung up on Sean Connery's role, right, where he's dressed like a Spaniard, but he's living in Scotland, but he claims to be from Egypt. And it's like, well, yeah, there he is, right? And it's like, well, why does the Spaniard, Ramirez, right, have a Scottish accent? He lives in Scotland now. He could have lived in Scotland for the past 100 years, picking up the Scottish accent. He could originally be from Spain. No, wait a minute. He's not originally from Spain. He's originally from Egypt.
Yeah, so he
What
would have
makes you
learned
wonder
these
what was
accents.
his name before he was. What was his name before he changed it in Spain? Which, of course, is a little bit of a Sean Connery deep dive. His line from The Untouchables: "What was your name before you changed it?" Bob.
There we have Clancy Brown as the Kurgan.
Yeah, nobody even bats an eye that he doesn't have a Russian steppes accent, right? You know, I mean, just, you know, the Kurgan were real people.
Yeah, and he's the primary antagonist attacking the Scottish clans at the beginning of this movie,
Right.
though you realize he probably does he have ulterior motives?
He absolutely does, because he even says to his men, I don't remember the exact line.
Like, don't kill him, he's mine, or something?
Don't kill him, he's mine. Yeah, exactly. And he tries to do him execution style, but in the fray of a battle with a bunch of Scotsmen, things are not going to go as planned.
So I have a question, though.
Uh-huh.
Don't you have to be awakened into an immortal before you could even get the... Oh, okay, so he could just lop his head off and still get it. Okay.
This first film establishes that these special people, these immortals, may not know they themselves are immortal and not even be aware of the rules prior to the discovery, but other immortals that are keyed into what's going on have the ability to sense. Actually, Connor actually does sense the Kurgan, but he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't understand it.
He knows something's weird. It's like a spider sense or a force sense.
It's like a spider sense or tingling in the force or whatever. I think the force is actually a really, really good analogy for the quickening. Yes. What?
Geek Like Renee said, did you know the Queen was only supposed to do one song from the movie? They saw a rough cut of the movie, liked it so much they were inspired to do the entire soundtrack.
Yes, I did, and that kind of fires me up. And it also demonstrated how versatile they are, because they did a lot of the people don't realize this too. And what's it called? Who was it that did the soundtrack for Dune? Was it the Police? Because what's his name? He had something. But doing the incidental music as well as the songs, right? There's that whole Who Wants to Live Forever, right? Which is essentially the love song of this movie, gets turned into this really great instrumental piece that's used in several key parts of the movie. Just the music is absolutely... Toto, thank you. I'm sorry, it was Toto. Yes, Toto did the soundtrack. So these popular bands doing popular music, doing these, these symphonic, but modern symphonic, orchestral pieces for music was kind of coming into vogue. Thank you very much, David. It was Toto that I was thinking of. I was confusing it with the fact that, of course, Sting was in the movie. But
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm looking at this picture here. I realize Ramirez could simply cut his head off, but that's not... I think his point is, this isn't fair. This guy just realized he's an immortal, and he should be given a fighting chance to at least defend himself and get some training and just figure out what it is to be an immortal before he has to face off, right? I mean... Without
getting too far into the weeds, especially because, you can decide whether or not you want to consider the series to be part of the same canon or not. But what you do get to see, and you actually get to see it in this movie as well, they do a great job of showing you all these other immortals, and you get this impression they all have their own life and story. They could do a story about that one African character that was a friend of Connor's, that ends up getting killed by the Kurgan. He probably had a whole back history too. You get the impression that a lot of these immortals have no interest in killing each other.
It's the game. They have to do it, but it's not like...
But nothing says I have to do it now.
It's not a vindictive thing or something.
Yeah, there is nothing that says, well, you have to do it, yes, but you don't have to do it, See, that's what it comes down to. You start to realize that some, like Ramirez and Connor and presumably Duncan and a lot of the other people they consider to be friends, have no interest in fighting each other and will live forever not fighting each other, except you always have the people like the Kurgan who don't give an F about anybody and are more than happy to kill anybody and everybody to win the prize. So sometimes you do need people to team up with each other to prevent, someone like the Kurgan from winning. And it seems like they don't say it directly, but it really does seem like Ramirez knows we're going to have to team up to take out the Kurgan. And, I need to help him get to the level that he needs to be strong enough. And if it's him or me, I don't care. But someone has to beat the Kurgan, Well, yeah, we'll talk more about that later. Of course, Heather...
It's kind of a tragic love story. This is where Who Wants to Live Forever? Why do you not
Oh my gosh, this
outlive your loved ones? Yes.
This was such a well-told story. This romance is the defining character for Connor, and honestly, exactly why I feel that every movie and every appearance he has in the series, right up to Endgame, this relationship here ties it all together. At the risk of, well, no, I'm not going to get into Endgame and the series and anything, but it's all very beautiful, and what a well-told story. Connor, these are the days of religion, and everything is predicated on it. Right. So if somebody dies and literally comes back to life, you assume supernatural events.
Vampire.
Yeah, but they assume it could be any. I know that there's. Is it the Duodane, or I forget?
Was that another thing from that period?
Yeah. There's all kinds of undead that are related to the vampire that are specifically Scottish. They don't mention it actually within this, but you could really dig into that kind of folklore. But yeah, he's ostracized by his own clan as being like, a demon, get out of here. And of course, Heather goes after him, and it's like, look, I don't believe what they believe, and she's literally willing to exile herself from her own people just to be with the man she loves.
Yeah.
Only come to find out that she ages and he doesn't. And that is not a problem for him, except in the element that he realizes there's going to be a day where he's going to lose her and have to live out the rest of eternity without her, which he dreads, And for her, she's concerned about, not being attractive and all this other stuff. And
he doesn't care about that.
Not even an issue. Oh, the last words he says to her, my Bonnie Heather, she's talking about how her hair has turned gray. He goes, I never saw the gray. I only ever saw the gold.
No. It's rather sad. Hold on to that, Maverick. We'll be talking about that later.
It is. This is why we're actually talking about this right now. We'll get there.
Mainly focusing on the first movie here, just because we're getting to the weeds, especially with the series, and of course, don't get Troy started on Highlander 2, which we could do a whole.
Well, there's really no point from a lore point of view, but so man, great picture that you chose here. This is one of his. This is the first battle that we see.
Yeah.
Where he defeats. We don't actually get a lot of backstory about the person whose head he takes, but you get to see him receive the quickening. But in this freeze frame, you see, this spotlight that begins the whole process of him receiving the quickening. What is the quickening? Think of it comes from the term that you give to the biological process of life. When an embryo begins to move and have electrical reactions and reactions to light and whatnot, it's called the quickening. It's what we consider to be the beginning of life. Well, that life force exists in all of these immortals, and you receive all of that life force from whoever you defeat by
it breaks the windows of anything in the area.
Yeah, and electrical discharge and stuff like that.
But
But
mess
look
up
at his
cars in the
sword.
slot after that. Yes.
Look at this sword. It's a very stylized sort of. I'm not sure if it's. I don't think it's actually a katana, but it is some kind of Japanese sword. And it was given to him by Ramirez, who had studied under a Japanese metallurgist.
Yeah.
The name of which comes from actual history, although the timeline is about a century off or so.
Well,
But this idea that Ramirez learned the skills of sword making from this Japanese master and then passed them on to Connor, which we see him using in the third movie to repair the sword after he breaks one of the rules, and thereby ends up breaking his sword. So I mean, this one movie, you get a lot of lore just from a few lines and a couple flashbacks. It's a masterclass in how to tell a story that spans centuries. It really is.
Highlander is literally one of my favorite movies. Oh, cool.
I am so with you there. Absolutely.
But of course, modern times, he's got a modern look.
That's another thing. He's got that look, right? He's got those eyes that he has, and they knew this when they were filming it. There are some great scenes that just kind of in that same style as Bela Lugosi in Dracula, where they put the lights right on his eyes and the rest of his face is a little bit shadowed. This particular scene isn't one of those, but they did that a couple of very key times, especially just before they go to a flashback, actually. So excellently done.
Highlander flopped at the box office. Interesting. So I guess this was one of these things that survived because of home video. And
a lot of the movies that we love so much were lightning in a bottle, pun kind of intended here, because if it didn't do, because a lot of them were very cutting edge. This was a story that kind of had never been done before. You can compare it to other stuff, but it was still very unique. And I don't think they marketed it very well, which is a recurring theme with a lot of these great, beloved franchises or standalone films of the 80s. But it was also happening at the time where we were starting to get cable and we were starting to get home video for the first time.
Yeah.
And so you'd have cable playing these movies, sometimes, like we've talked about in the past, on kind of endless loops because they had a very limited number of licenses they had access to. So if you missed the Highlander, from 3 to 5, well, as soon as it ended, there'd be a commercial, and then they'd start right into it again. So if you were catching the end, you're like, man, this looks good. Well, I'll go make some popcorn, and I'll catch it from the beginning, And that's how a lot of these kinds of movies ended up getting watched and very much beloved. So when you'd hear there was a sequel being announced, you're like, oh, yeah. In this particular case, it was like, the hell did you just do? But that's a story for another time.
That'll be another rant, maybe a Friday.
Yeah, right.
The issues. Maybe when the new one's coming out, we should do a retrospective on like some of the Highlander sequels and see what.
That'll be a whole Friday night stream, I think. Absolutely.
But that's not my last pick. My last slide here, though. But that's the big fight at the end between.
Right. So
Yeah.
another great element is so you see him with the sword, and when they clash swords, I think they were kind of going for some of the idea of what you saw in the lightsaber battles in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But they also want to convey this whole clash of the quickening, right? So you have their swords come together and these sparks go flying. That was a very interestingly done practical effect where both actors, and it was usually done in close-up, so you couldn't see them like from the waist down or from behind them or whatever, very cleverly how they had to do it. Their swords were hooked up to car batteries. And when they would, one would be positive, one would be negative, so that when they came together, there'd be the sparking like you would get when you're connecting a car battery.
Oh, neat.
So that's how that was done. But that also resulted in the specific blades they were using not being real swords. They were these, mock-ups that they needed to get the effect. So sometimes you would see their swords come together and you'd see them go whoop, 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 and almost wrap around each other.
Hey, it's the immortal force doing that, or I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what they call it. Yeah.
There are still practical ways to do that are a little bit. You'd be able to use real swords these days and get the same effect, is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the thing that started a major franchise, if you think about it, because you had the movie sequels, you had the TV series, you had a cartoon, which I know some people are not fans of, but
yeah, I've seen
which is actually getting a release on I think Blu-ray or SD.
It should. There's nothing wrong with it existing. Just don't take it too seriously,
What I actually liked, well, no, you know what? Let's not get off on a tangent.
Right.
There were things I did like about the cartoon. You could tell it was a French cartoon too. That was.
Oh, okay.
The third big country after Japan and the U.S. for animation was always France. Actually, I always thought that was
interesting.
They did a lot of the Disney afternoon shows were actually animated in France, which I thought was interesting. All right, so moving on to there was an anime, wasn't there? There was an anime Highlander movie. You're right.
I can imagine that. This I feel like would really lend itself well to.
Yeah, they had. I think the director of the Vampire Hunter D made it. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. All right, but that's it for Highlander. But we'll be touching on it later this evening because there's some news about the. I guess I want to say remake.
I think they're actually calling it a remake. Let's see when we get to the article to be sure.
So, and of course, I forgot to show the final. That wasn't the final side. That's what the quickening looks like. See the lightning shooting out.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, this is in fact the final battle after he takes the Kurgan's head, and you'd seen it a couple of times throughout the episode. Or excuse me, the film, but they had to go bigger for this one. So they really upped the animation with the lightning, because before it was just flash explosions around him and the glass being blown out. But here, this is practical animation, lightning being drawn over him. In fact, it kind of takes on the visage of faces. You have these swirling, like the spirits of those that have gone before him, swirling around him. They lift him up on wires like he's defying gravity. Very, very intense.
But what's kind of interesting though? I suppose in the remake, the final fight should happen in the Chihuly Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. The guy's an artist that works with glassware. I'm just thinking, what's the worst thing?
Oh my god!
With destroying all this
horrible.
priceless artwork. I'm sorry.
That
anyway,
would be horrible.